Robert Greene is a multiple New York Times bestselling author, with a unique and engaging writing style. If you're a student of human behavior and psychology, I highly recommend his books, even though they are at times dark, Machiavellian, and scheming. And his website domain is powerseductionandwar.com. I always joke that there are two types of people who read Robert Greene books: the power-hungry, hyper, self-conscious narcissist he's writing about, and Joe Weeby, the prolific young author born in 1994. The Laws of Human Nature is probably my favourite Robert Greene book. With 18 meaty chapters, Greene draws on historically significant people and events, recounts them in intimate detail, and then analyses the dynamics at play to highlight broader insights into human nature. Today, I'll explore what I think are the 4 biggest takeaways from his book, The Laws of Human Nature. Takeaway 1. We're all irrational. In Chapter 1, Master Your Emotional Self, The Law of Irrationality, Greene points out that we're extremely emotional and inevitably subject to irrationality. This is a major theme discussed in my other videos and articles on Nassim Taleb's Fooled by Randomness and Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow. Greene lists common biases, like confirmation bias, and triggers, including early childhood and our susceptibility to sudden wins and losses. We imagine we're in control, but are unaware of how deeply our emotions dominate us and steer us towards ideas that soothe our ego. This forms the basis of our complex human nature. Takeaway 2. The pervasive need for attention and mechanism behind self-esteem. In Chapter 2, Greene breaks down our need for attention. From the moment we are born, we humans feel a never-ending need for attention. Greene says this is tied to our social natures and need for contact with others. We must have people looking at us to feel alive. He believes it's tied to our self-worth. Because this is so important to the human animal, people will do almost anything to get attention, including committing a crime or attempting suicide. Look behind almost any action, and you will see this need as a primary motivation. Like toilet paper at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, there's only so much attention to go around, meaning we compete for it, with siblings and at school, for example. Greene says we arrive at a solution to this problem in early childhood. We form a sense of self, an image of ourselves that comforts us and makes us feel validated from within. This self is composed of our tastes, our opinions, how we look at the world, what we value. In building this self-image, we tend to accentuate our positive qualities and explain away our flaws. If we do this correctly, he says we can develop a self we can love and cherish, so our energy turns inward and we become the center of our attention. This self is like a thermostat to regulate our doubts and insecurities. It's a place we can retreat into to soothe ourselves if feeling unappreciated. If we have moments of doubt and depression, our self-love raises us up to feel worthy or maybe even superior to others. Here Greene is referring to self-esteem. The idea is to arrive at a sense of self we can love, to free us up from needing as much attention from others. Takeaway 3. We're all on the narcissism spectrum, except for me. The key stage of development is between 2 to 5 years of age. We move away from a world of instant gratification and slowly realize our separateness from our mother. Greene believes if we are encouraged by our parents at our first steps to independence, then our self-image can take root. Some people experience a sharp break in this early development, meaning they don't form a consistent feeling of themselves. These are what Greene calls deep narcissists. The childhoods of deep narcissists typically involve parents who either abandon their children or enmesh and smother them. Both stunt the child from developing their own identity. This is why a deep narcissist is heavily reliant on attention from others. It's their only way of connecting to themselves. At the end of the day, we're all on the narcissism spectrum. Most people are what Greene calls functional narcissists. We're still self-absorbed, but that's okay. Ironically, narcissism actually means self-love. So the goal is to become what Greene calls a healthy narcissist. Healthy narcissists have a stronger, even more resilient sense of self. They tend to hover closer to the top of the scale. They recover more quickly from any wounds or insults. They do not need as much validation from others. They realize at some point in life that they have limits and flaws. They can laugh at these flaws and not take slights so personally. Takeaway 4. People are good at hiding their true selves. In all the examples Greene gives us of unhealthy, antisocial, and narcissistic behavior, the common trend is surprising, radical behavior shifts that we don't see coming. For example, people might seem very genuine and warm at first, maybe even charismatic, before later attacking or undermining us. Many of us have encountered people like this at work, in our families and intimate relationships. People learn to hide darker aspects of their nature, often unconsciously. However, these traits inevitably surface at a later point. One example from the book is envy. Envious people are drawn to objects of their envy, initially befriending them. Later, they escalate into sabotage when their underlying sense of inferiority becomes too strong. It's hard to spot warning signs or predict this behavior. As human beings, we can be very good at masking and suppressing toxic personality traits in the short term, but as relationships deepen and time goes on, they will eventually surface. In short, just because the day looks clear when we leave home doesn't mean a storm isn't brewing. Conclusion. Mr Miyagi. As far as the laws of human nature goes, this video is only the tip of the iceberg. It's impossible to summarize or break down all of Greene's insights in one video. If you'd like to see more thoughts, check out my Substack article on the duality of Robert Greene, where I unpack his writing style and discuss challenges with his guides. I also recommend Greene's podcast appearances and interviews, and I've linked a couple in the description. The Laws of Human Nature has lots of advice for dealing with nasty people, but the more I read about these types, the more I feel like just taking the Mr Miyagi approach. Best defense, no be there. If you're not a narcissist, the one way to prove it is to subscribe to this channel. If you don't subscribe to this channel, congratulations. You're an unhealthy narcissist. You can't be helped.